Welcome everyone to my channel. Today I have a new real-life Bigfoot encounter for you to enjoy. It's very intriguing and I love that they were able to provide some photographic evidence of what happened. If you have an encounter you'd like to share, please send it to my email in the description. Don't forget to subscribe, share, give this video a thumbs up, and hit the notification bell so you'll know right when a new story is uploaded. It helps me out a ton. And thank you all to my loyal listeners who stuck around this entire time. So this encounter comes from Erich. He relates his encounter like this. When I was 5 years old was the first time I shot a gun. My brother Larry took me out behind our friend's home, out towards the Bald Hills near Yelm, Washington, to shoot a shotgun and target practice. We walked maybe a quarter mile back into the woods with about 6 inches of snow, with more coming down. My brother didn't show me how to hold the gun other than how to safely point it at what we were trying to shoot. He says that's how he was taught to shoot. So when I shot it, the butt of the shotgun was a few inches away from my shoulder. When I pulled the trigger, it slammed into my shoulder and knocked me on my rear end. I began to cry when my brother told me to shut up in a serious voice. He had never spoke to me like this before. I immediately noticed how serious he was being, so I stopped crying. He helped me up from the frozen ground and then pointed at a set of tracks that were right next to where we were standing. Now, as a small child, everything you look at seems much larger from your perspective. The footprints he pointed out looked gigantic from my point of view, maybe 2 feet long. I understand that they were nowhere near that size, but when my brother put his foot next to them, they were at least twice the size of his and dwarfed his footprints. He said, "We need to go right now." I remember hearing the shakiness in his voice. The track stretched as far as I could see, leading back further into the woods. We immediately left and walked back to the trailer, but I remember the feeling like we were not alone. Approximately 2 years later, when I was 7, I was out at the property again. My best friend Brandon and I used to stay up late playing video games together inside a camper that was on the property. His father Ted was a Vietnam War veteran and used to drink a lot. So when I stayed there, it was common knowledge even as a child that you didn't wake Ted up early in the morning. Sometimes that would make him have flashbacks of his time fighting over there, so we always were quiet, trying not to wake him. The trailer was heated by kerosene, and in the morning time, if the heater had run out of gas, it got very cold in there. One morning I woke up because it was cold, and everyone else was still sleeping. It must have been about 7-ish in the morning. Knowing that I couldn't wake up my friend's dad, I went outside to play. I had picked up a stick and was pretending it was a sword, walking around hitting stuff with it. There was a pond on the neighbor's property approximately 200 to 300 yards down a slope. Brandon and I used to go to the pond and catch many little green frogs to play with, so I began walking towards it to go play by it. Even before I left Ted's property, I saw something come out of the woods walking on 2 feet. It walked over to the pond, squatted down, and it looked like it was using its hands to drink from the pond. I really couldn't see clearly because it was so far away, but that's what it looked like. The size of it from the distance was only about an inch tall from my perspective. After it drank, it walked back into the woods again on 2 legs. I told everyone what I had seen after they got up. The adults that were there told me it was Bigfoot. As a child, we all used to go Sasquatching up in the Olympics and in the Cascades. There were times that my dad, brother Todd, and Ted would say they saw things in clearings when we would be out, but I don't remember ever seeing anything other than what I experienced at the property near Yelm. Growing up, and as I became an adult, I used to tell everyone these stories whenever the subject of Sasquatch would come up. But as the years passed, even I began to believe that they were dreams because of how many times I said them and because it happened so long ago. Let's fast forward to the last 2 years. One day in June of 2020, I got a phone call from my sister's ex-husband, my bro that I refer to when talking about my new experiences from this point forward. He told me that he had been having encounters with Sasquatch for several nights in a row up in Little Notches, Washington. This was significant because the entire 26 years I've known him, he always said he didn't believe in Bigfoot. He had been an outdoorsman his whole life and had never once had an encounter with one, so he avidly didn't believe in them. He told me his stories, and I didn't even believe him, though I've always believed they existed, because the stories he shared with me were even crazier for me to believe. One day I hope that I can get him to share his stories, because they turn out to be significant. A year later, my niece Mackenzie was graduating from high school, and his family invited me to come to see her graduation. He and I haven't hung out since he divorced my sister so many years ago. It was such a blessing to not only see my niece graduate, him and I rekindled our friendship. We used to be best friends, and now we are again. It's a beautiful thing. A little later is when I had my first experience with the forest people, up close and personal. After the graduation, we went to a restaurant to celebrate. He asked Mackenzie what she wanted to do to celebrate her graduation. Now, his family has always been outdoors people, and she said she wanted to go rock hounding up in Little Notches for agates. We drove up to the mountains off Chinook Pass to find the rocks. We had some awesome finds and spent hours up there. I even found some wolf prints near where we were looking. Overall, it was fantastic. After it started to get late, he asked me if I wanted to go to his cousin's campsite to hang by the fire. So we went there for a couple of hours. When we went to leave, he asked me if I wanted to go where his family had been having the experiences with the Sasquatch. And I was like, heck yes! We drove about 9 miles back on logging roads away from the closest campsite at about 6,000 foot elevation. First, he wanted to stop at a wood structure that was alongside of the road where his encounters took place. He said that it appeared the day after his first encounter. The people who were there was his wife, me, Mackenzie, and his 2 children that were from his new marriage. We drove past the structure at first, so we had to back up to find it. After we found it, I got out of his vehicle and went to examine it. It was a small structure, about 6 to 7 feet tall. It looked kind of like a teepee with flat-looking bark meticulously lining the bottom of it. There were 3 stones placed on the bark. It was a cool-looking structure, but I was thinking that a person built it, even though it was off the side of the road and 9 miles back from the closest campsite. After we got back in his vehicle, he told me that we were going to go where they seen the Sasquatch. He said he marked the spot by putting a large rock on top of a clear-cut stump. Sure enough, just up the road a little ways, there was a rock on a stump. We were using some bright rechargeable flashlights to look for eyeshine. We drove past the marker about 1/4 mile and then turned around to head back down. On the way back down, as we drove by the marker again, I was shining my flashlight out the window when I saw 2 sets of white glowing eyes looking at us. I got excited and told him to stop. We backed up a little ways and everyone got out of his SUV. The eyes looking at us were brilliant, pure white, and had what I described as little flares coming from their shine. It almost made them look like stars. The eyes began to look at us and then at each other, then back at us, and then away from each other, like they were looking at something else off to their right and left side. Then they stopped looking around and just started to stare at us. This happened for approximately 15 to 20 minutes. Now, I have seen the eyeshine of every other forest creature, and can tell you that they were like something that I had never seen before. I estimate that they were about 150 feet away from where we were standing. My bro, his wife, and 2 daughters moved up the road about 100 feet away from where his son and I were standing. He began to use his night vision to look all around the side of the road where we were getting the eyeshine. His night vision didn't even pick up anything from where the eyeshine was coming from. I began to feel pure curiosity, a feeling like I hadn't experienced since I was a little kid. I was so excited that I didn't even think about taking out my cell phone to try and capture the moment. It was incredible, both what I was seeing and feeling. Then, the eye shine changed as they turned to the side. I could see the shine still, even with the peripheral view. My flashlight illuminated their bodies as they turned. I could see their bodies from head down just to below the knees. I saw their hair and the muscle tone as they took off at an incredibly impressive speed. Now I tell you, it was so fast. It made me yell, "Wow, did you guys see that?" I am getting goosebumps just trying to describe what I saw. I felt this overwhelming urge to walk down the road that they paralleled, so me and his son began walking down towards the direction they moved in. As I was walking, I saw two large vehicle-sized boulders just down from where we were walking. Something in my gut told me to not go by them because there was danger, so I stopped. At that exact moment, everyone else began geeking out over what they were seeing in his night vision, so we went to where they were to have a look. In the night vision, there was one of them very low to the ground looking at us. It was closer than the other two who had moved away at an incredible speed. He said that, as he was scanning for eyeshine, he moved the night vision from the right to back to the left. It seemed to just appear in a matter of just a couple of seconds. He took a video of it with the night vision, and this is a picture of what he recorded. In the video, you can see it move slightly. After we all took turns staring at it for around 15 minutes, he said that he wanted to pop a shot off with his pistol, but not at it, to see what it would do. At that time, we picked up more eyeshine coming from our right, about 250 feet away. One of them kept peeking out from behind a large tree. We could only see one of his eyes shining. The one that was peeking was moving out to peek back and forth rapidly. He pulled his pistol out and told everyone that he was going to shoot, and fired a shot away from them and us in a safe direction. And then the two that had run off earlier came back. The one in the night vision didn't even flinch or blink. I picked the eyeshine from the other two almost simultaneously as he fired his shot. Now, what animal in the forest have you ever seen that came toward the sound of shooting? Then the one in the night vision just disappeared. The other three, though, were still there. As they stared at us, we could see them blink. It was very eerie how slow they blinked. After about 25 minutes, the one peeking was gone, and the other two filtered their eyeshine away from us down into thick brush. We watched as they moved further away until I could only pick up the occasional singular eyeshine through the bushes. During the event, I experienced the most intense feeling of curiosity I have ever felt. My bro got super agitated and was acting like he was in a bad mood for no reason, being snappy, and his wife, who was a Yakima native, and began to feel extremely sick. We all got the feeling like we needed to leave at the exact same time. So we all got back into the SUV and headed home. The photographic evidence was captured that night and the day after. We ended up staying up until around 8 a.m. talking about what we had experienced. I left the next afternoon to go back to my home. His family went back up there the next day after I had left. The pictures that were taken after I had left is what they found after they went back up there. The snapped tree, now there was no wind that night, and the footprints. This was the start of the experiences I had last summer, and I'm still having experiences to this day. I did stop doing research sometime in August, after stuff started happening at my home in Lacey. And now recently is when I'm feeling comfortable to share my experiences. Though I typed all this out, it still doesn't feel like I captured the moment. It was that intense and surreal. I'm planning on going back out next summer to gather experiences because since all this started, every time I'm in the woods, I have an experience. I'm still working on getting my bro to come out about the stories he has and the finger bone he has in his possession. Thank you, Erich, for submitting your encounter and letting me tell your story. Again, if anyone has an encounter or even a scary story of something that happened to them, please send me an email to the address in the description. Thank you for listening, and I'll catch everyone in the next video.